Okay, there we go. All right, so thank you to Katie, who's on the call, and Dr. Trinity's team for going back and reevaluating those flow regimes. And in doing so, it helped us really break down how we were going to address the best management practices that were needed. So I believe we went from, a flow regime that was 10 to 50, and we were able to narrow it down into this range of 40 to 60%, which are the storms that we see a majority of the time. And therefore, we're going to be able to address non-point sources and potentially even those small intermittent storms that might not even register on a USGS gauge. So this is going to be for the better than what we were looking at, especially because we weren't able to reduce watershed wide. We weren't able to reduce, I think, anything by even like 2 billion, if I recall correctly. So let's see, what else did they work on? We also changed everything from general notation to scientific notation to be consistent throughout, so we could compare the numbers better. And they updated the select based on your stakeholder, your recommendations. Let's see. And so based on the August 4th meeting, I believe that's when we met last. So we discussed all of those results. We did that doodle poll questionnaire. And when we talked about everything, we realized we needed to add in taxes. And am I missing something? Well, once we start talking, we'll get down to more of it. Okay. Alrighty, so in that final modeling report, you should have seen the breakdown of each of the individual sub-watersheds and the goals that we are aiming to improve in the individual sub-watersheds. So in Soap Creek, during the mid-range flow conditions, we are hoping to improve the water quality by 7.7 times 10 to the 14th. And the sub-watersheds that feed into that, and I'm going to open up the map shortly and show y'all, are, you guys, actually, let me send this if you guys want to interact with it while I'm talking. Where is my chat? So sub-watershed for Soap Creek that we would be using for our goals to meet the reduction value of 7.7 times 10 to the 14th are Soap Creek watershed 1, 2, and 3. So for Walnut Creek, we were looking at a improvement goal of 5.37 times 10 to the 14th, and where we would be incorporating watersheds 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in Walnut Creek. In Mountain Creek, we are hoping for an improvement goal of 9.88 times 10 to the 14th, and we would be incorporating Mountain Creek subwatersheds 6, 9, 10, and 11. In Hollings Branch, we are looking for an improvement goal of 5.72 times 10 to the 13th, and we're using Mountain Creek watersheds 1, 2, 3, and 5. And then in Low Branch, we are looking for an improvement goal of 4.8 times 10 to the 13th, and we're utilizing watersheds 4, 7, and 8. And in Bowman Branch, we're looking for an E. coli water quality improvement goal of 1.6 times 10 to the 13th, and utilizing Walnut Creek watersheds 1, 2, 3, and 4, with a total watershed improvement goal of 2.42 times 10 to the 15th. So let me show this map here. moment. Okay. Oh, actually, I'm gonna use the I think I have the cattle on. Oh yeah, okay. So some of these layers don't have the actual numbers labeled, so I have the cattle layer on, so don't get confused based on what's red and what's green. All right, so for Bowman branch here, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the Bowman branch station is 2213, and this is up here. But we're using the animal counts from 1, which is downstream, 2, which is an adjacent subwatershed, 4, and 3. Now, when I ran the best management strategies, we did find that 20%, and I'll show this later, 20% focus on pet waste reduction as well as on livestock management did meet that goal. With low branch, using Mountain Creek 4, 7, and 8, so low branch station is 22135. And that is right in here. And so as you can see, really, when we were doing our monitoring, only MC8 fed into it, but we are using MC4 and MC7 values to help with population numbers. And this is kind of where I was hoping to get your take, if you think that's okay. But with low branch, again, we were able to meet that water quality improvement goal with 20% for focusing on 20% of the pets, control 20% of livestock. And then with Hollings branch, we're focusing, or we're utilizing MC 1, 2, 3, and 5. So Hollings branch station is 16433, which is right in here. And again, this is the water quality monitoring station. And so this was focusing on, or this was sampling right in here for MC3 specifically, but we were, I pulled in counts from MC2, which is downstream and adjacent, as well as, excuse me, MC3, MC1 over here, which is essentially the state park, and MC5. Well, I'm getting a few comments. Let me open up my chat here. Alrighty. Okay. And all right, Mountain Creek. So 16434. Right in here. And again, this was capturing the upstream of this station here. And so we were pulling in numbers, even though downstream of it, we were incorporating the 6 count into 16434. And we use 6, 9, 10, which is upstream, and 11. So 9, 10, 11 were accurate for determining the load reduction goals. But when we did the calculation, it looks like we would need 40% reduction in pet waste and livestock, which I know when we had our discussions didn't seem economically feasible. And so I'm going to keep going, and then I'll get to another reason. With Walnut Creek, we are utilizing station 1361, and so that's a pretty large swath of area. And we have 5, which is downstream of it, but everything else is upstream. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we were able to meet the water quality improvement goal with only 20% reduction in pet waste, livestock, and with everything I incorporated OSSFs, and feral hogs was only incorporated in the riparian areas. And then with Soap Creek, so the Soap Creek station is right here. zoom in, 22134. And so again, this was capturing SC2 and SC3, but we did utilize SC1 to bring in some more population numbers, and that is downstream. So similar to what happened with Mountain Creek, the Soap Creek water quality improvement goal was not going to be met with using only the 20% reduction in pet waste and livestock waste. It's also going to need 40%. And so what I ended up doing, and let's see if this is something more agreeable, amenable to, is, and we do have the individual goals, but a total watershed wide goal of 2.42 times 10 to the 15th is manageable based on 20% pet waste management, 20% livestock, focusing on our, oh, let me mute. Did everyone hear everything I was saying, or was I cutting out? Looks like,
I could hear what you were saying, but Michelle's background noise was cutting in as well.
Michelle, I'm muting you. Okay. All right, so before we go forward, I built everything around the total watershed wide water quality improvement goals of 2.42 times 10 to the 15th, because based on that, we were able to hit the 20% reduction. So with pets, like there's 67,000 pets watershed wide. And, you know, if we focus on 20% of them, which is about 13,000, we're able to reduce the amount of water quality. Same with livestock, 11,000 throughout the watershed. We only focus on 20%. We're able to reduce the water quality impairment. And OSSFs and feral hogs, we were able to actually go above and beyond what this would be. So let me show you my table. Oh, no, let's do this. So what's y'all's take on that? So if we were doing watershed wide, and I'll zoom in here, and I can show the breakdown of each individual one. So watershed wide, if we manage 20% of the population, so our goal is to effectively install blank number of pet waste stations, do a significant outreach campaign, potentially have some workshops, maybe install some individual pet waste digesters, which are like small septic tanks for individual homeowners. And with the bag waste removal effectiveness factor and the attenuation factor, we would have a total reduction from that specific BMP of 2.3 times 10 to the 15th. And that reduces that by 1 billion here. And then we drop down into livestock. So again, there's 11,000 head of cattle throughout the watershed. So if we looked at managing 20% of the population, so developing those water quality management plans with NRCS or the Texas State and Soil Water Conservation Board. So I estimated about 52 farms, and that was based on me breaking down the average head in the watershed is like 43 head, and the average acreage of a farm is about 180 acres, and that was an average based on the 4 counties. I might have overestimated that, but it was, well, I'll need to get, is Josh on the call? I'm gonna have to get with him afterwards. So based on that, managing 20% of the population, so implementing with those 2 resource agencies, rotational grazing, exclusionary fencing, and installing alternative water sources. In total, we would reduce the loading by 1.8 times 10 to the 15th. And just with doing the 20% reduction of pet pet waste and 20% reduction of livestock, we've already met the goal watershed wide. Now, you know, we're also going to be focusing on OSSFs and focusing on essentially trying to repair 2 failing systems, 12 that are permitted, and finding at least 12 that are non-permitted. We would again be going above and beyond, reducing the water quality loading. Yep. And same with feral hogs. If we focus on trying to remove 5% of the total population was estimated, so trying to remove 30 hogs, we would again be above and beyond. So, what do you think about doing watershed wide? Do you think that's okay? Or should we break it down Mountain Creek versus Walnut Creek? Here, I'll show you some of the numbers from Walnut Creek. So if we, like I had originally planned to focus on the sub watersheds, so Walnut Creek here, just based on, since Walnut Creek has a significant amount of pets, it is urbanized. Total number of dogs and cats in the watershed, focusing on 20%, 5,000 here. We've already met the goal in Walnut Creek by just doing a huge pet waste campaign and doing additional best management practices for livestock and OSSFs. We would be above and beyond. Hollings Branch, which is Midlothian, Cedar Hill area. Again, where are we? So with total number of dogs and cats, we'd be focusing on about 850. And if we just did a pet waste campaign and put in initiatives, so this is including some green infrastructure as well, and I'll touch on a few of the ideas for green infrastructure, we would go above and beyond and meet the goal. Low Branch, which is Grand Prairie area, again, just focusing on the pet waste, we would be meeting the goal here. And Bowman Branch, same thing, just focusing on the pet waste, which is up in the Grand Prairie area and has a little bit of Arlington in there. Again, it would be meeting the goal. So with Kay, you want to annotate the shared content?
No, I'm on my phone and I'm screwing up a lot of stuff. So please.
Okay. All right.
Sorry
So
about that.
that's okay.
Okay.
So then now moving into Mountain Creek, and again, with Mountain Creek and Soap Creek, I included 2 additional sub watersheds that were actually downstream from our sampling point. That so those, any water quality down there was or from that sub watershed was not included within our low duration curve analyses. So when I did the calculations, we would need to be focusing on 40% of the pet waste population in Mountain Creek and 40% on the livestock. And then we'd also so include OSSF reduction and feral hogs. Soap Creek, same. Again, there was that downstream location. If I pull this back up. So we included Soap Creek here, even though our low duration curve results were only coming from these 2 watersheds. And then same with the Mountain Creek. We included MC6 in this count. All right, before I get any farther, what do we think about this? Is a total watershed wide goal for E. coli, as well as nutrients. I didn't get down to that one yet, but is that something that's logical since we know we have 2 big streams, Walnut Creek and Mountain Creek, going into Dopa Lake? Or are y'all amenable to increasing our implementation goal in Soap Creek and Mountain Creek and keeping 20% throughout the rest.
This is Joe, and I think that total watershed makes sense because anybody that we can get to help would be good. And there's no need targeting the educational. You can just spread the educational components watershed wide. But then there could be targets on top of that. But it seems like anybody we can get to help would be good.
Okay. Howard?
Yeah, I was just going to say it makes sense to me to have it broken up into smaller, more manageable areas.
Okay, so you want me to keep the so I'll write out individual strategies for each versus the total.
Maybe I said that the wrong way. No,
Well,
I think how you have it grouped is fine.
okay. So I think we have the total goal of our reduction in our watershed protection plan, so watershed wide, but then we can write out specific initiatives where we know that certain areas are going to need more livestock implementation, more OSSF implementation, more pet waste implementation. But we can still do a watershed wide general focus. And then when we apply for implementation funding, we can, have specific areas targeted versus others. For green infrastructure, we know this is going to affect this differently than the
Yeah.
area. Did someone say something?
Oh, I just said yes.
Okay. All right. So, okay, that works. So, Jessica, do you have a take on that? Doing a watershed wide goal, even though there's two significant streams flowing in versus breaking it down? I know we've had many back and forth on going sub watershed goal wide or versus watershed wide.
Heather, I'll look back at the reference documents that EPA gives it to make sure there's no clear decision by them either way. But I think ultimately it's up to you guys and your stakeholder groups.
Okay. All right. So then moving into TKN and NOx. So we did decide that we wanted to focus on the TKN nutrient going into the watershed and watershed wide. So this is 11 tons per year here. And with NOx, that's 15 tons per year. And since the NOx is greater than the TKN for Soap Creek specifically, I subtracted the 7 tons and added in 15. So we would have a total of 18 tons per year here that we would focus on watershed wide for nutrient reduction. Okay. Now, there was another item that we didn't fully agree on or come to a conclusion yet because things were still in hypothetical. So the way that we ranked, which is how I came up with what direction we needed to go based on the practices we needed to target and reduce. So this is just the total E. coli loads that we found using select. So dogs and cats ranked the highest. And then livestock here ranked second. And then OSSFs ranked third. And then feral hogs ranked fourth. And then wastewater treatment facilities was sixth and wildlife was seventh. So with that, we were going to come up with our priorities and what we wanted to focus on once we do get the watershed protection plan approved and how we want to start implementation. And we kind of had a back and forth. So these were the rankings here. And priorities, I just threw in there because we didn't really come to a agreement on it yet. You guys are still culminating this. So with pets, I put them as 1, and I paired that with yard waste and residue. as the first target because we want to be focusing on nutrients as well as on pets. And this right in here is just to note that only E. coli was ranked by select. And so we weren't able to put nutrients into the select analysis, but we were able to come up with a water quality improvement goal based on our water quality sampling and load reduction curves. So second priority of the watershed plan would be to focus on livestock. And then third priority of the watershed protection plan would be to focus on septic facilities. And I paired that with illegal dumping and hotspots, floatables. I hope, so okay, I'll keep going and we'll see if there's any comments. So fourth, I put in wastewater treatment facilities, which we would really be looking at SSOs. There was only 39 SSOs now over, the span 2016 to 2020. And, that's based on reporting. If they're not all reported, we can only be as good as what data we receive here. But if it's something we should be focusing on, it's up to you what you think. I mean, a lot of the watershed is the county upland versus in Mansfield, Grand Prairie, Cedar Hill, that's closer to the lake itself. So I just put it in as number 4. Okay, and then number 5, I put feral hogs and wildlife. So this is what that continuum would look like. So when we start to apply for implementation funding, we'd be looking at applying, for pet waste and yard waste initiatives. So green infrastructure, installation of pet waste stations. And that was that piece of paper that I emailed y'all this morning. And then so second priority, and we can, apply for multiple at a time, but this is just the idea. Okay, any take on this? Or it looks good?
Looks good to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. That's K.
Okay. Alrighty, so this is a different way to interpret it, summarize it a little bit better for y'all to see. So based on different management measures, so pet waste disposal ordinances, I mean, I'm sure most of the cities have them, but county, maybe not. Maybe we could improve upon that language. I'll have to work out with everyone, but just an idea. And then putting in the supplemental pet waste stations, so doing recon for the areas that may need it, which is going to be most likely in the county. And then an idea of putting in the backyard pet waste digesters, which are like little itty bitty septic tanks. And it might be better suited in the county, but we shall see. And that would result in I haven't put any green infrastructure in here, but there will be additional green infrastructure like permeable pavers or bioretention or bioswales, etc. So resulting in the anticipated E. coli load reduction 2.3 times 10 to the 15th. And then with lawn residue, so, doing our expanding essentially illicit discharge survey. So looking at outfalls, going through and looking for yard waste dump sites, and then developing lawn waste management ordinances potentially, and looking at, I mean, there's a lot of green infrastructure that would be implemented, but lawn residue and waste nutrients in general will be mitigated based on all of our E. coli strategies as well. So I could expand this. I could, This is just our starting point here. With livestock, we're looking at a reduction goal of 1.08 times 10 to the 15th, and that would be with the implementation of water quality management plans and conservation plans from the working with NRCS and the Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board. With OSSFs coming up with incentivized OSSF inspections, coordinating clean out events, practice focus training, septic sewer initiatives, and inspection ordinances for property transfers. So that would be working with real estate agents, and that could result in an anticipated E. coli load reduction of 4.7 times 10 to the 12th. And they put in the illegal dumping and litter accumulation. So looking at these surveys, or implementing these surveys, doing the rural home hazardous waste pickoff drop-off days, and implementing Joe Pool Lake cleanup events. And we would do this in coordination with, I believe, the COG, because they've started their Trash Free Texas campaign. I know a few of the cities here are a part of that. And then with SSSOs, an idea, come up with a way to do stormwater infrastructure assessments and support for interdepartmental reporting network for that, for where SSOs happen. And then with feral hogs, I know this was not a big priority for y'all, especially if we're focusing on removing 30 hogs to meet that 1.2 times 10 to the 13th. This would be last on the list of what we would want to focus on. Our top priorities are going to be up here. Okay, let me pull up this. All right, whoa, what did I do? Any feedback on that?
Hey, Heather, you mentioned that
There we go.
lid BMPs would be included here. They're going to be included prior to publishing this in the WPP. Is that correct?
Yeah, so our next meeting, we have to finalize our management strategies. So today's meeting was really to come up with the best management practices, like ideas for the best management practices, but also confirming our water quality improvement loading, because we had to go back to the drawing board in August. And so I'm going to touch on a few of the green infrastructure ideas, but I will be putting together a list and getting that out to you this week, so that we can move forward with meeting with our public and finalizing that.
Okay, deal.
Mm-hmm. All right, so with the pet waste, so these are costs that have come, these are just hypotheticals. So I know I've talked with a few of y'all. Utility bills are not really being utilized anymore. So I'm going to be looking into adding in a hypothetical for billboards, working with the media, and utilizing the COG, their resources, and being able to maybe pull in and put their videos. I know we talked about this last time, but like having QR codes in different places and advertisements within the different cities and buying space. And so this was just an estimate that I came up with. So just an outreach estimate based on a yearly education campaign. And for the recon, this is an estimate based on salary and pretty much assessing it within 1 year where we would need to install the pet waste stations. And then the 34 pet waste stations that I estimated was based on a pet waste company where like one pet waste station holds 400 bags. And if we're trying to address 13,400 pets, then I, divided that by the 400 bags and came up with 34 pet stations. And that might be an underestimate that we need throughout the watershed, but just an idea on that. And so I calculated that to about 40,000. And then pet waste digesters might be a great opportunity to put this down or put that campaign out in the county where they have a lot more land. And so in addition with pet waste and how we can address nutrients, so, with people picking up their pet waste, that will also reduce nutrients, but also considering putting in bioswales. So let's say, we're, I don't know, trying to put in a few every year, and rain gardens, for example. So I came up with a few different ideas. So again, this is not completely finalized, but I wanted you to see it, that it's in the works. So, maybe looking at 2 different sites and maintaining it over the 10 years, it could, or 4 different sites and maintaining it over the 10 years, and we would come to a total of, 32,000 that we could put in, and the bioswales would be addressing the nutrients, and it would also count in towards pet waste reduction as well. Same with the rain gardens, same with permeable pavers as a driveway or even a sidewalk within city parks or in the county. And I was also pulling some sources from the EPA based on finalized implementation that has gone on up in the Northeast. I know it's a little different landscape, but they were showing that they were seeing, 40% reduction in nitrogen with some of these bioswale rain gardens. And I'm missing one word. One of the other GIs that I will be putting together into a spreadsheet for you. Okay. So any questions on how I was calculating this before I go to the next one? All right. All right, so paired with that was the lawn residue and waste, and that's where I was putting together the different GI infrastructure implementation strategies. And so same, I just estimated this number, and I'm going to be updating this to remove the utility bill information, but also pairing this with a WaterWise education program. And this will, we couldn't be partnering with the regional group, the COG, but we want to have our own so that we can really push hard within the specific watershed. Okay. Oh, sorry. I accidentally put these out of order. My bad. All right, livestock. All right, here, this is what Scott and I were talking about before everyone signed on. So this is, I came up with we would need to manage or implement 52 water quality management plans, conservation plans. And I calculated this based on the amount of cattle we would need to work with, so 20% of the 11,000. And based on the average head of cattle on each property and the average acreage. So average acreage was about 180 acres for each farm, and that was average from the 4 counties that span Joe Pool Lake. And then 43 head came from the NRCS, typical head of cattle for farms in Texas. And this was 2017 data that I was pulling. And so then I divided it and came up with, so I divided the 43 head and the acreage into the acreage we have and the total cattle we were trying to manage. And that came up with 52 properties, and the 15,000 a plan is the NRCS typical cost, or the Texas State and Soil Water Board typical cost to develop these water quality management plans. And so I might have overestimated, but this could actually be a good estimate. So I'm gonna talk with Justin. I said Josh earlier, Justin, to see if that seems feasible. 52 farms. Does anyone have any take on that within Joe Pool Lake Watershed? Am I overdoing that? I know everything's really getting broken up right now with development, but anyone have a take?
Was there anything similar to that in the Village Creek plan?
Yeah, so Village Creek had 40. He had 25 upland farms he wanted to focus on and 15 or 30, no, 40, yeah, and 15 specific farms on the riparian area. So I guess it is similar now that I just said that. Yeah.
But the cost estimate was about the same.
Oh, so yes. I mean, since they were focusing on 40, it was, yeah, like 380 for the 25 and 200 for the 15.
Yeah.
So ours is a little more just because Joe Pool Lake is larger and looking at other properties, but this would be, you know, a yearly goal. I mean, not 780,000. We would break that down to like a yearly goal over the 10 years for implementation.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Is anyone in the county here right now? Looking at who's on the call here. Okay. So with OSSFs, you know, we found that there was only about 115 on the riparian within that 330 feet of a stream. And it may be that we might want to do a larger campaign with that, but I know we want to target the specific ones that would be draining directly into our streams. But, you know, upland, we might want to look at that. So with that, over 10 years, we're looking at a yearly event to do OSSF maintenance and training. And, you know, Texas A&M has a great program that they can come out and do this training, but it costs money. So we estimated one per year, $7,500. And then we would incentivize, this is an idea, and I don't know if, I know it was discussed when I recently talked with one of the gentlemen at AgriLife. I cannot remember his name at the moment, but he had said that it has been brought up with other counties, and they were thinking if they could incentivize an inspection, then those folks that would get trained, it could reduce their bill on having to care for their OSSFs every 3 years if they would come in and get trained to do their own inspection. But that's up to the designated representatives for the counties. So that I was able to calculate out to $162,500 over 10 years. So $325 event. Another idea would be to encourage any of the HOAs to coordinate with private contractors, develop a neighborhood-wide inspection. With the new developments that are coming in, I'm assuming, or at least the ones that are within the cities, those are going to be connected to the city line. But are the ETJs also going to be connected to city line? Because this might be a big focus with our unincorporated areas. So anyone have?
It all depends on how close they are, whether it's economically feasible for them to tie into sewer or not.
Okay. And then an additional goal would be to focus on expanding our outreach with real estate agents and the designated representatives. Then with the cities and counties, so the COG has a good regional program but we would be, using them as the backbone and expanding that into our region to provide that septic to sewer. I know the EPA has a great septic to sewer program as well, marketing program, and then potentially come up with ordinances that require these OSSFs to be inspected. Okay. All right, and then with illegal dumping, so we are going to be going forward with scheduling those biweekly surveys. So we're just going to go with the hotspots that we had originally. And I believe, Scott, you added one the last time. And so we'll be developing our litter survey assessment tool for everyone to check out. And if you have any more ideas about where we should be focusing, if you've seen additional trash in other areas, especially those construction sites, Scott, that you mentioned, and I think it was Retta Road that we were going to add as well. This would help with reducing waste that gets into the streams, as well as E. coli that can be directly on unsanitary items, as well as nutrients that would come from yard waste, for example. So cost throughout 10 years, then this includes salary, coming up with a survey to identify that every year. And then with counties, working with the county reps, so our county commissioners, to really push hazardous waste pickup days. I know Johnson County does have them, but expanding this outreach and really getting it into the notifications into every person's home. And then with cities and counties, nonprofits, regional entities, resource agencies, we'd try and so I say the Keep Blank Beautiful. I believe most of our cities that are on this call have some type of Keep Mansfield Beautiful, Keep Grand Prairie Beautiful, or another initiative that does coordinate cleanups. And we estimated this at one a year for like 3,500, which would include, location and coordinating with waste pickup and including food, etc. All right, am I missing feral hogs? All right, so our goal for feral hogs was going to be trying to reduce 30 in the population. And the trap share programs, that's pretty standard cost. And so this would be 15,000 per system. And then it's about 5,000 for support and maintenance over 10 years. We'd be providing the framework to landowners. And Kay, I know you have experience with this, so if you have any insight on it, that would be great if you think my numbers are a little off. And then working with all stakeholders to develop and give the general feral hog educational workshops. Since, with COVID, we haven't really had COG just put together a virtual online workshop, but doing one in person again would be great, and working with the other water districts. I know one was done a few years ago throughout the Metroplex, and it is educational, informational.
Well, my only input with that is, for that amount of money, a lot better reduction of the feral hog thing. So just that would be my only input.
You cut out a little bit. Can you?
Okay, my only input would be that if we're going to spend that kind of money on the feral hog, I think we could probably get better results. But your estimates are fine. I don't necessarily think that they need to change.
Okay.
Call come in. I just would hope that we could get better results, but I don't necessarily think you need to change your report.
Okay. All right. So back to PowerPoint.
Heather, I have a question about the OSSF inspection. Who would be responsible for doing that inspection? Is it the municipality those OSF are going to fall under?
So we're really trying to encourage the residents themselves to reach out to private contractors, or the residents themselves being their own inspector. But no, they would be working with the designated rep, especially because a lot of these are found in the unincorporated areas. And I know you and I went back and forth on the different septic facilities within Grand Prairie. But with that, it wouldn't be pushing y'all to do the inspections. It's, you know, we're really trying to get the residents to be more responsible.
Yeah, I was developing an ordinance and requiring the residents to do their inspection. I think that would be a challenge.
Yeah. We might have to work on that or remove that language, but
I live in
sorry.
I'm sorry. I live in unincorporated Ellis County, and I put my septic system in 20 years ago, and it gets inspected every quarter. And if Ellis County doesn't get those reports on a timely basis, I hear about it. So.
And you're having yours inspected
By
like
by a private company. Yeah.
okay.
I pay them a flat fee. I pay the same price every year, $150, and they do the paperwork. They come out every quarter and inspect it. So that's what I was told was required of me by Ellis County.
But this is Kay again, and that sounds like such a reasonable price. Surely we could incentivize some people to do somehow start doing some inspections and repairs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed.
We're really not talking about trying to have 100% of them do it 100% of the time. We just need to convince a certain percentage to start doing a better job.
Correct.
Why is not everybody that's on a septic system? This is Elaine Ruby.
Yeah.
Is everybody that's on a septic system not required to have that inspection done every year? The $150 and have them come out quarterly?
From what it sounds like, well, so the permitted ones, yes, but now if people do it, that's on them. You know, I'm not exactly familiar with it, but the non-permitted ones, since we estimated there are so many, you know, they're not being enforced upon. And so that's really what our goal is with this, is figuring out what it's,
Is that the ones
Heather.
that have been grandfathered into the system that nobody knew about? Or people that put them in themselves and
some jerry-rigged ones? Could be.
Okay,
Hey Heather,
all right.
this is Mike Adams. The state law actually changed where unless you adopt a ordinance or an order that requires them to have the maintenance contracts, they are no longer required, and that came through the state.
Wow.
Okay.
So Ellis County, Ellis County kept theirs in place, and so they required that you had the maintenance contracts. Everything within the city limits of Midlothian, at this point in time, there's no maintenance contracts required.
That's it. Yep. That's why when I was talking with Ashish, I think his name was Ashish, he runs the OSSF program with Texas A&M AgriLife, was discussing incentivizing OSSF inspection. So, you know, working with real estate agents and private contractors and designated reps in order to, you know, reduce the cost of pump outs. For example, if these folks are coming out or getting trained on how to maintain their OSSF properly, and then therefore they could get a discount on something else. So, oops. Alrighty, so I included these for y'all to refresh your memory on all of the different examples for our BMPs. And I'm going to send this out right after the meeting for you to check out. And then I will get you the price breakdown for our GIs and so I'm kind of wrapping up everything we've discussed and now going back to the chapter. So chapter 4 and chapter 5 are finished, and this is everything that's going to be going into chapter 6. I haven't heard back if we did want to include any other potential sources of E. coli, but this is just a reminder when I get those chapters out to you this week to, if you think of anything else, please let me know. So I'm hoping to schedule our public meeting. So finalize everything we just talked about and get feedback from the public end of last week of September, first week of October. Are people planning on being on vacation, this group? Or is there a specific date? I cannot schedule a meeting in the last week of September, first week of October.
I'm available. This is Kay.
Available.
Okay. I was thinking like the 29th or the 30th of September.
Yeah, that should work for me as well. I've got a conference the 18th through the 20th in October, but that's it.
Okay. Okay, so October 18th and 19th, you said no go on that? Because
Yes.
we're scheduling 2 more meetings in October.
No go.
No go. Okay. All right, so looking at this. So we met today. We did not meet with the public on August 19th because we went back to the drawing board here. So we're going to so my plan is to schedule the public meeting in 2 weeks with the stakeholders on the 29th or the 30th. And so we met today, and I'm going to need to be scheduling a meeting with y'all after this meeting, or this might be able to be done by email and a poll. So if I think it can be done via poll, that might save everyone some time. But y'all are going to need to be responding to it, within a certain amount of time, please, if I do it that way. And then we're hoping to get the draft out on the 29th, end of October. This is our goal. We are wrapping up. It's very exciting. So oh yeah, I propose October 15th to finalize chapter 7 and 8. I will send out a doodle poll for that. Okay. Upcoming October 14th, we have our urban stream restoration training, and it's going to be hosted by City of Mansfield. Thank you, Howard. And this is actually a $50 cost, but they are going to be going down into the stream and conducting surveying, substrate analysis, and then learning about how to do restoration. So really aiding in reducing our erosion into our streams. And there are a lot of CEUs attached with this. And so go to the link. When you register, when you click that link, if you're interested, if you can promote, awesome. There are CEUs through TWRI for nutrient management planning specialists, crop advisors, floodplain management, association, architect, and there's a few other ones. So that is what we got scheduled. Let's see. that's it. So this did, yay, it only took 1 hour. It did not take up 2 hours of your day. Any questions that you are stewing on before I hang up and send these chapters out to you?
I don't have a question, but just a comment. And this goes all the way back to when we were talking about, should we do this as the whole watershed together or break it out by the different things? Just my personal opinion is it makes a lot of sense to have it as a whole watershed thing, because granted, Walnut Creek makes a big difference, but it just seems more logical to try to do whatever marketing and education stuff you're going to do for the whole area.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my one person's opinion.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so based on looking to see for attendance wise, who is call-in user 3?
No idea what I am, but this is Kay Felton. Can you tell if I'm on?
Yeah. So I have Scott, I have Chandani, I have Dennis, Howard, Brian, Lee, Chang Lee, Jennifer, Joe, Jody, Jessica, Elaine, Julian, Katie, Lauren, Mike, Nathan, Webb, Vana, and I don't know who call-in user 3 is. Who are you? Looks like they're unmuted. I know Michelle jumped off. Okay. Anyone? Well, the person's unmuted. So, Kay, maybe, are you a call-in user and an attendee online?
Yes, I'm both. Maybe that's it. I've got it on my phone and a desktop. Could that be it?
No, because I actually see your phone symbol.
I'm just on the phone, and when I look at the attendees, I'm registered with my name.
Okay.
So I'm a phone person.
Okay, well, I'm excited that we are going to be going forward with Watershed Wide, and I will send out the proposed green infrastructure goals. I need to get with Dr. Trinity, and Dr. Amari couldn't make it today, and I want to reference these with them since they are the experts on that. And then I will get out the chapters. I'm excited to send them out and finalize those. And then I will schedule the public meeting for September 29th or September 30th. And if we get any concerns from the public, we may have to change up a few things, but I don't foresee that happening. And we will meet in October for finalizing chapter 7 and chapter 8. We may meet if I can get out the chapters and you can review them on your own and send back any comments, and we may not have to meet. And then we will submit the draft. Exciting. We were here. Did you say something, Joe? Okay. All right. Wrapping it up. Hope everyone has a good day, good week. I will be in contact via email this week.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.